Joseph, ruler of Egypt. Egypt, land of the river Nile, of pyramids and mighty pharaohs. This is the land to which Joseph, a Hebrew lad, was brought as a slave from the land of Canaan. Here in Egypt, under God's blessing, Joseph had become the prime minister. God had made it known to Joseph that soon there would come upon the land 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of great famine. And as prime minister of Egypt, Joseph had ordered men to gather up 1/5 of the food in the 7 good years, to store it away for the 7 years of famine that would follow. Throughout the land, the storehouses of Egypt were filled. Then came the years of famine, just as God had said. 7 long years in which very little grain grew in the fields. Soon the famine which came upon Egypt also troubled other countries. Then Joseph opened the storehouses that had been filled during the years of plenty, and people from far and near came to buy grain, for only in Egypt was there food enough for all. Meanwhile, the effects of the famine were being felt also in the land of Canaan, where Joseph's father and brothers lived.
There's hardly any grain left and no more grass for the cattle.
We'll have to do something soon. Our supply of grain has never been so low.
But where can we buy grain?
Unless we do get some grain, we shall all starve.
There's none to be had in all Canaan.
My sons, listen to me. Why are you just looking at one another? Why don't you do something? I've heard there's grain in Egypt. Go down to Egypt and buy grain. Go quickly, so that we may live and not die.
And so it was settled. Jacob's sons would go down to Egypt to buy grain, that is, all but Benjamin. Benjamin was to stay at home, for Jacob had already lost Joseph, one of the sons of his favorite wife, Rachel. And he would not risk losing Benjamin, the other son of Rachel, by sending him to far-off Egypt. News of Egypt's grain supplies had traveled far and wide, and many people were coming to Joseph to buy grain. As governor over the land, Joseph had great power, but he was kind, and no one who came to buy grain was refused. One day, Joseph saw something that made his heart leap within him. His own brothers had come to buy grain. And as they bowed before him, Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed long ago. The dreams in which God had foretold that someday his brothers would honor him as their ruler. Seeing that his brothers did not recognize him, Joseph decided to test them. And so he spoke roughly to them in the language of Egypt.
You men are spies. You have come to see where our country is weak and open to attack.
Oh, no, my lord. We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in Canaan. The youngest is with our father, and one is no more.
Joseph was overjoyed to learn that both his father and his younger brother Benjamin were still alive. But hiding his feelings, he pretended not to believe his brothers and ordered them thrown into prison for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, Joseph spoke to his brothers again, still using the Egyptian language. Through an interpreter, Joseph told his brothers, "If you do what I say, you will live, for I fear God. Let one of you remain in prison, and let the rest go and take home grain to feed your hungry families. Then bring your youngest brother to me, so I can see that you told the truth. And then you shall not die." When Joseph's brothers understood that they must bring Benjamin to Egypt, and thought of the grief that it would cause their father Jacob, they were filled with regret over what they had done to Joseph, and they began to talk excitedly, accusing themselves.
We certainly did wrong to our brother Joseph. That's why this trouble has come to us now.
Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy, but you wouldn't listen? So now we are being punished for the wrong we did to him.
And when Joseph heard what his brothers were saying, tears came to his eyes, but he turned away so that they wouldn't see him. Now he realized that his brothers at least regretted the wrong they had done. But Joseph was not yet ready to tell them who he really was, so he had Simeon put in prison. And he ordered his servants to give each of the other brothers a sack of grain and food for the journey. Then Joseph's brothers departed, not knowing that the money they had brought with them was being carried home again, hidden in the sacks of grain as Joseph had commanded. That evening, when they stopped at an inn on the way home, one of the brothers opened his sack of grain in order to feed the pack animals, and what he saw in the sack filled him with fear.
Brothers! Brothers, come here! My money has been returned. It was right here in my sack.
The Egyptian ruler will think we've stolen it.
We dare not go back to Egypt now.
But what of Simeon? If we don't return, he will be killed. We must return with Benjamin.
Our father will never let us take Benjamin to Egypt.
What has God done to us?
As the brothers had expected, Jacob was shocked by the report of what had happened in Egypt, and he didn't want to hear a word about their taking Benjamin to Egypt.
You are taking my children away from me. Joseph is no more. Simeon is no more. And now you want to take Benjamin away. All this is happening to me.
You may kill my own 2 sons if I do not bring Benjamin back to you. Put him in my care, and I will bring him back to you.
Benjamin will not go to Egypt. For Joseph is dead, and only Benjamin is left. If any harm would come to him on the journey, you would bring my gray hair down into the grave with me, with sorrow.
So the months went by, and the famine continued. Soon, all the grain which Jacob's sons had brought back from Egypt was gone, and they were again in great need of food. When Jacob suggested that they go buy more grain, his sons reminded him of what the Egyptian ruler had said.
And the man solemnly warned us, saying, "You will not see my face unless your brother is with you."
Why did you tell the man you had another brother?
The man kept asking about our family, saying, "Is your father still living? Do you have another brother?" So we told him what he wanted to know. How could we know that he would say, "Bring your brother to me"?
Let Benjamin go with me, and let us go at once so that we and you and our families may live and not die. I'll be responsible for it. If I don't bring him back to you, then let me bear the blame for it as long as I live. If we hadn't waited so long, we could have been back by now.
Let me go with them, Father. I'll return to you safely.
If it must be so, then do this. Get some of our choicest fruits and bring them to the man as a present. And also take with you twice as much money as was returned to you in your sacks. Perhaps there was a mistake. Take also your brother and go again to the man. May Almighty God grant you mercy before the man, so that he will let Simeon, as well as Benjamin, come back with you?
And so Joseph's brothers again got ready to go down to Egypt, leaving Jacob alone with no son to comfort him. This time, the welcome that Jacob's sons received in Egypt greatly surprised them. They were treated royally and told they could keep the money they had brought with them. Moreover, they were invited into the ruler's palace to await his coming and dine with him.
Is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still living?
Your servant, our father, is well. He is still alive.
And is this your youngest brother, the one of whom you spoke to me?
These men of Canaan were frankly puzzled. They couldn't understand the strange behavior of this Egyptian ruler, his unexpected kindness to them, his affection towards Benjamin, and now his sudden departure from the room. It was all very strange. But more surprises were to follow. A feast was prepared for them, at which each brother was seated according to his age, from the oldest to the youngest. And afterwards, all of them were sent safely on their way with bags of grain, even Simeon, who had been released from prison. But the joy of Jacob's sons didn't last long. Their caravan was scarcely on the way home before it was overtaken and stopped by some of Joseph's guards, who accused them of having stolen a silver cup from their master. The brothers protested in vain, inviting the Egyptians to search their sacks, promising that if the cup were found in anyone's sack, that one should die, and the rest would be slaves. Once more, Joseph's brothers stood before him, this time to plead desperately for their younger brother. The cup had been found in Benjamin's sack, but his older brothers all offered to bear the blame. And when the Egyptian ruler refused, Judah made a touching plea.
Let me stay, I beg you, and be a slave to you. And let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if Benjamin is not with me? I couldn't bear to see the misery on my father's face if we went back without Benjamin.
And now Joseph could not keep silent any longer. His brothers had shown that they were truly sorry for the wrong they had done to him. He must tell them who he is.
I am Joseph. Please, come near me. I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't feel sad or angry because you sold me here. It wasn't you, but God, who sent me here to keep people from dying. God has made me a friend and counselor to Pharaoh, and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry back to my father and tell him, your son Joseph says, God has made me ruler of all Egypt. Come down to me and don't delay. You may live in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me. You and your children and your children's children, and your flocks and your herds and all that you have. And there I will take care of you.
Then Joseph threw his arms around Benjamin, and they wept. And he kissed all his brothers and wept on their shoulders, showing that he had forgiven them. And adding to Joseph's joy was the thought that soon he would see his father again. So Joseph's brothers returned to the land of Canaan. And when they told their father that Joseph was the ruler over all the land of Egypt, Jacob could not believe them. But they showed him the gifts that Joseph had sent and the wagons to carry all their families back to Egypt. And at last Jacob accepted the happy news that he would see his beloved son Joseph again. When Jacob arrived in Egypt, Joseph hurried out to meet him in his chariot. And Jacob thanked God for his goodness in allowing him to see once more the son he so dearly loved. And in this moment of happy reunion, Jacob remembered what God had spoken to him back in Canaan. I am the Lord, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make of you a great nation. And Jacob believed God's promise that his family would become a great nation in Egypt and would return to Canaan after many years.